Let's jump straight into the Bitcoin chart for today. Kicking things off on the one-day time frame with the key support and resistance zones. Earlier today, we actually tapped into this significant support area ranging from 62.5K all the way down to 60,000 in Bitcoin's price. The next support zone below that, should we lose 60K, is already lined up from 58,000 stretching down to 56K. On the resistance side to the upside, we're currently looking at a zone running from 65K up to 67K. For now, my target remains 52,000 on Bitcoin. And that's because we broke down out of this bearish flag formation on the weekly time frame around the 87K level. So as long as I don't see price reclaim that breakdown point, 52K and possibly even 45K are the levels I'm watching first on this time frame. One thing worth noting is that we're now actually trading beneath these prior weekly candle closes. So if we do end up closing this candle below 65.7K, there's a possibility we could see a bullish divergence develop here. That said, as someone correctly pointed out in yesterday's comments, this weekly time frame hasn't actually bottomed yet, so it's not guaranteed we get that kind of setup. Honestly, it's entirely possible price just keeps grinding lower and pushes into extreme oversold readings even on the weekly, and at that point, if we print a lower RSI low, a bullish divergence simply won't be on the table anymore. For now, though, I'm just going to keep watching how this develops and let it breathe. Moving over to the daily time frame with this next chart. Nothing has really shifted in the base case. Essentially, anything below 91.3K still reads as a bear market to me. And as you all know, I'm still expecting us to put in a lower low one that takes out 60,000 as well. So it'll be interesting watching how that unfolds. Beyond that, let's look at the fractal comparison to the 2022 bear market. Even though we're running slightly ahead of that timeline, we're actually tracking it closely. We're back trading around the bottom of the same horizontal range we were stuck in previously. We spent a few months chopping sideways in that range, broke above it just like last cycle, and when we fell back inside it, that was the signal that we were likely heading toward the range lows. If this fractal continues to play out the way I talked about in yesterday's video, we should probably expect a fairly quiet and drawn-out period over the next couple of months. We'll see. There was a bit of a fake-out last time where price briefly shot back toward the top of the range, so I'm giving this situation a little more room before drawing conclusions. Earlier today in my Discord, the link is in the description at the very top. By the way, I shared that I just completed another spot, Bitcoin buy, slightly above 62K. I'm now sitting at 33% of my target exposure, up from around 20% where I was before. During a period like this, where we're seeing aggressive moves to the downside, nobody really knows exactly where the bottom forms. Sure, we can look at the charts and say we're deep in oversold territory and the downside is getting limited, but that doesn't mean the bottom has to be right here, right now. If Bitcoin actually loses that final support level around 60K, that's going to send a serious warning signal even on the higher time frames. So heads up if that happens. Either way, drop a comment below and let me know what you think comes next. My goal right now is just to check in daily and bring you whatever fresh analysis I can. Honestly, over the last couple of weeks, I've basically been repeating the same points every day because I kept saying, look, the trap was set. We broke down from this rising wedge, and I'm staying bearish as long as we're below this descending trend line. One more thing I want to address since yesterday's video, because this seems to keep causing confusion. Almost every day I'll say something like, look, if we break above this trend line and we start seeing bullish divergence or something similar, there could be some short-term upside potential. And I mean that in terms of hours, maybe a day or two before price likely rolls over again. But when I say that, I get comments calling me a bull or saying I'm wrong, and it's honestly happening more and more. Which is why I genuinely want to ask you guys, should I just stop covering short-term analysis on this channel altogether? Because people keep taking it out of context. I'll say I'm bearish on the higher time frame, but there's a scenario for a brief bounce if X, Y, and Z all line up, and then when those signals don't confirm, I'm somehow getting accused of being bullish in a downtrend. It's really baffling to me. So yeah, let me know what you think I should do with that. Anyway, bit of a rant there, let's get into the Bitcoin ETF flow data. Yesterday saw another large outflow of nearly $400 million from the Bitcoin ETFs. There's also a recurring misconception that makes for great clickbait headlines, like BlackRock just sold $340 million, which is technically accurate since it involves the IBIT ETF. But it's not BlackRock themselves investing in Bitcoin and then suddenly dumping it. What's actually happening is that the people who bought into IBIT are exiting their positions, and when they do, BlackRock has to sell the underlying Bitcoin to keep their balance sheet square so they're not holding more Bitcoin than what's represented in the ETF. That's a simplified version, and I know the mechanics work a bit differently under the hood, but it should clear up the confusion. BlackRock isn't selling because they've turned bearish on Bitcoin. Their entire business model with IBIT is just collecting the management fee from people who hold the ETF. It genuinely doesn't matter to them whether Bitcoin goes up or down, other than the fact that when price falls, more holders exit, and that shrinks the fee base. All right, hopefully that clears things up. Let's wrap with the Bitcoin liquidity analysis. On the 3-day time frame, there's a cluster of liquidity to the upside, reaching as high as 68K. Zooming out on a broader view, there's also liquidity sitting up at 75K. You can still see that 68K pocket on this view, just less clearly. And on the 1-year time frame, naturally most of the visible liquidity is stacked to the upside since we just swept a lot of the downside. That said, there is meaningful liquidity sitting below 60K as well, it's just not visible because I don't have the 2-year chart loaded yet. I'll make sure to pull that up soon because I want to show you where the deeper downside liquidity is sitting. Someone in the comments yesterday said there's no way people actually hold leveraged positions open for a year or two, but that's actually not true at all. I've seen it plenty of times in my own community. The way some people trade is they use cross-margin on their positions, figuring that their account is large enough that even a massive drawdown won't liquidate them. So they'll buy Bitcoin at 80K, thinking it can drop all the way to 40K without blowing their account because their liquidation is that far below entry. They think it's basically impossible to get hit, which of course isn't true. I've watched people ride a long winning streak with this approach wide margin between entry and liquidation, and then one big flush wipes everything out in a single move. It's just bad risk management from any angle. But that's exactly why you can have liquidity sitting from 2 years ago. Because back when Bitcoin was at a 120K, someone's liquidation at 55K felt completely unreachable. And they held all the way down until price got attracted to exactly that level. Because that's what price does, it hunts the liquidity. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll get the downside liquidity chart sorted as soon as I figure out the subscription or payment setup on CoinGlass. Either way, tomorrow's video will be back to the usual format, straight to the point. No extra commentary. Today I felt like going a bit more freeform and addressing some of the things I've been seeing in the comments lately. Hope you don't mind the longer format today. That's going to do it for this market update. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow.